Following Victor Osimhen's outburst on social media, reactions from fans have been pouring in, with many criticizing the Napoli striker for his comment against Finidi George. Finidi, who is said to have also resigned as the head coach of the Super Eagles on Saturday, attributed his resignation to the decision of the Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, to hire a foreign technical advisor. He was also quoted to have said he can't beg Osimhen to play for the national team after the player withdrew from their last two 2026 World Cup qualifiers due to injury. Osimhen was apparently infuriated by the comment in a live Instagram video on Saturday and said he had lost respect for Finidi and opened up on the circumstances that led to his withdrawal from the Super Eagles' last two World Cup qualifiers, adding that Finidi was adequately briefed by him and his doctor. Finidi's tenure began with a challenging 1-1 draw against South Africa in Uyo. Hopes for a quick turnaround were dashed by a disheartening 2-1 defeat to Benin in Abidjan, further complicating the Super Eagles' position in Group C with only 3 points after 4 games. Joining us now as we look at the crisis currently rocking the Super Eagles, Nigeria's male senior football team is Charles Ojugbana, veteran sports journalist, former Nigerian Football Federation board member, and former NFF Assistant Secretary General. Good morning, Ms. Ojugbana, and thanks for joining us today on The Morning Show.
Good morning, Ayo. Thank you, and good morning, Rufai and Dr. Abati. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Well, Mr. Ojugbana, do you think that the NFF has been fair to Finidi George? He drew one match, he lost one, and just like that, he was told Nigeria will hire a foreign, emphasis on foreign technical advisor. Meanwhile, the same Finidi George, who has now resigned, says he had issues with the way he has been poorly treated by the NFF. Some members of the NFF board interfere with the team, and that the players themselves lack discipline. And it was in that context that this controversy about Victor Osimhen came up. In a country where many are making a case for encouraging local coaches, do you think that the NFF has been fair to Finidi George?
Okay, there are many aspects to this. Let's start from the perspective of Finidi George. I think the man just realized that somewhere along the line, he was going to be made a scapegoat for Nigeria's inability to qualify for the next World Cup finals. And I say this because from his own testimony and the letter he wrote to the NFA, it was very, very clear. To start with, the timing of the announcement by the NFF that a technical advisor was going to be appointed was very faulty. That was on the eve of a crucial match, when the board should have been interested in finding out how Nigerians in Côte d'Ivoire could come out en masse to support the team, how vulnerable the Eagles were, because even though they were playing lowly Republic of Benin, their coach was the immediate past coach of Nigeria, Kenneth Rao, which meant that he knows everything about your team. Now, they upset the young man, and of course, like they say, he lost his ginger. There was no way Finidi could have folded his hands and accepted it the way if I were in his shoes. And most importantly, in terms of bad timing, was the fact that after the match against Benin Republic, the next time the Super Eagles are going to play a World Cup qualifier will be sometime next year. So what was the hurry? They could have waited for the result of that match, made a plan, and took their time to hire somebody who in their own estimation was good enough to take us to the promised land. But it's like a student who is sitting for WAEC and he has to write 7 papers. And he has written his first 2 papers. Because you marked them and found that he has failed, you now tell him he's not qualified to write the remaining 5. That was too hasty. So I thought that from the point of Finidi George, he did not want to put his head on the chopping block, and he did not want to be used as a scapegoat. Pure and simple.
All right. Well, talking about scapegoats, let's talk about someone else in terms of Victor Osimhen, another player in this whole drama. He's coming in as being displeased by what was allegedly said by former immediate past head coach Finidi George. And then I'm sure you've watched the video of his tirade and his outburst. And now what they're saying is that he might be used as a scapegoat and also a deterrent, so that we don't see this level of indiscipline in the Super Eagles, in the national team. What's your take on that outburst? Was he well within his rights? He said he was aggrieved, and so he felt the need to come out to clear his name. Some people have spoken out to say that, well, if someone said that thing about a player that could jeopardize even his international career, then they could understand why he would come out to make such a post. What do you think about this? And should he be made a scapegoat in terms of facing a disciplinary action for that outburst?
Thank you, Ayo, for that question. I simply feel that what Victor Osimhen exhibited was, a small slice of a bigger monster that was in that team. I mean, in sports and in team football, we all know that for discipline to reign, what occurs in-house remains in-house. It's unethical for a player or even a coach, for that matter, to go to press, exposing the misgivings and ill feelings in-house. It's not done. You come out in front of the world, you create a united front, so that your supporters, your fans, and everybody is on the same page. So when a player begins to speak the way Osimhen did, it is an indication of something deeper. When somebody like Finidi begins to act the way he does, it's also a sign of something deeper. And why do I say that? Football is a team sport. Unlike boxing or athletics or tennis, where you carry your hope alone and you fight for yourself. If a team is not united, they have started by psychologically losing the game even before they step onto the pitch. And I say that what occurred was an inkling of so many things we didn't know. I read somewhere, at least from one of Nigeria's best sports reporters, Kunle Sholaja, that amongst one of the things that were alleged to have happened in Uyo was that certain players came to camp with their girlfriends. Now, don't get me wrong. Footballers are human beings. Even at the World Cup level, players are allowed to associate with their girlfriends and their wives. But it has to be organized. The players are in Camp A in this hotel. The wives and the girlfriends are in Camp B in the other part of town in another hotel. And whenever the coach so desires, he creates a platform for interaction amongst spouses. But for a player coming to the Super Eagles camp in Uyo, dragging his girlfriend around, along with him, means that he has already lost focus even before he started training. Now, also part of what makes football a team sport is that a coach is not just somebody who directs how the team plays. You are also a leader. You are a manager of men and resources. A good manager does not quarrel with his tools. And a good coach does not quarrel with his players, at least not in the open. A good footballer also, no matter the level where you are, just as I place Victor Osimhen as one of the best we have as of today, does not go ranting in public, go on Instagram Live, and you're castigating your team and you're castigating your coach, no matter how good your reasons are. So like I said, this is just an indication of a larger, mountain of problems the team has. I'll give you another instance. We're talking about Finidi George. Now, has anybody bothered to find out the coaching qualification of Finidi George in the first place that made him to be deserving to be appointed as Nigeria's coach? I mean, coaches are licensed. They are graded. Even referees are licensed. They are graded. In Europe, for instance, if you do not have the UEFA A license, you cannot handle a national team. You cannot even have the UEFA A license if you do not possess the UEFA Pro license. Now, the Pro license qualifies you to handle any football club in Europe. So you can see the graduation.
Okay.
But
Okay.
what I have seen in my country, unfortunately...
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I mean, I get you. We can talk qualification all day. Olise had almost all the licensing. Olise still ran into problems. I think there's a fundamental wrong problem. And at first, discipline of the players. Some have asked, can Osimhen do the same to his coach over there? Some will say, oh, he's got a problem with discipline. That's number one. Some will even say that even the problem started when some of the handlers and selectors would look for all sorts of pecuniary benefits from the players. Some will say, why can't we revert into the days where we used to, the days of Dan Amadi Anyam of this world, where you know that the man in charge had a lot of respect. Some will say the Nigerian Super Eagles is a reflection of Nigeria today. That everything has broken down from the start to finish. Question I'd like to ask you is, after all of this, number one, what will be the way forward? Because the most important talk while we are here, it's not really about Osimhen and Finidi. It's about the fact that 2 back-to-back World Cups we will not qualify, or we might not qualify. And we know that football is a unifying factor in this country. This was the same football that, because of Nigeria's success, some people died in the last Nations Cup. And we had to start advising people that if your heart can't carry it, don't watch Nigeria game. This Seleção we're about to frolic with, is there any hope?
Thank you very much, Rufai. You hit the nail on the head, like I said earlier on. The bigger problem is not the players. It's not even the coaches. It is the administration that binds all of them together. I will dare say that I had thought that from the days of Westerhoff, Bonfrey Joe, these, in my own estimation, were foreign coaches who really had deep passion for the country Nigeria. They wore the Nigerian label as, a badge of honor. I had thought that from that point in time in our football history, there would have been a concerted effort to groom a whole bunch of local coaches who would eventually take over and by this time, deserve to hold the place. Okay, we have talked about Finidi George being angry because somebody said we're going to appoint a technical advisor. As I speak to you, there is no name put to that technical advisor. So it's not just about mounting it. Who is that person? Are we going to, jump from fry pan to fire? And I will tell you that there is no person, you can say, oh, this is the person who's coming, this is the coach, I know him. There's no such plan. So in terms of administration, we must go back to the basics. And for me, the basics starts from the local football. Look at the South African national football team. 99.9% home-based players. The South African Football League, in my estimation, is no better than our old league. So if South Africa can play almost 100% home players, how come the Super Eagles do not have, any inkling of anybody playing in this country? Is it that they are that bad? I'll give you an example. Rangers have been crowned champions of this year's league. I would have thought that if for the first time in several decades, a team can win the league by losing only 13 matches, because the norm is that you win at home and you lose away. But losing only 13 matches out of about 38, that should tell you that there is something good about the defense of that team. I would have expected that the bedrock of the Super Eagles, if not today, but tomorrow, will be based on a team like Rangers. Look at Bendel Insurance. They are 10th on the league, but they have considered the least number of goals. Something is happening, at least in the defense of that team. So that's what I said, we must go back to the basics. There are many parameters for you to look at it. Look at the Super Eagles that played in the Nations Cup in Cote d'Ivoire. Every match had a different set of players. Look at the ones that have played in this World Cup. Every match had a different set of players. How do you chop and choose and expect? There is no cohesion. There is no cohesion. In the days of the Green Eagles, you knew that if Ojugbana had the ball, you knew where he was putting it. If you knew that if Chairman Christian Chukwu, stopped a dangerous move, you knew the next place the ball was coming. If Atuegbu had it, you knew what Muda Lawan would do. You don't see that in the Super Eagles. Because coming to the Super Eagles has become an all-commerce affair. Oh, he's playing in Malta, he scored 30 goals. Invite him. This one is in Ukraine. Invite him. What about the home-based team? We should have a nucleus. I'm not against foreign-based players, but the team should be built around a nucleus so that when you invite the foreign-based players, they are also even afraid of perhaps not even getting a shirt. Then the rivalry becomes good enough. That's why I said we must go back to the basics. So you do that with the teams, you do that with the coaching system, you do that with the general administration. Now, tell me now, what is the home ground of Super Eagles of Nigeria today? Last match was in Uyo. The next match, maybe they go to Delta. Another one, they go to Ibadan.
Well, on that note, we'd like to thank you very much,
But
Mr.
sorry to cut you. If you look at the Three Lions of England, they've been playing in Wembley for decades. So there is a cohesion between the home team and the national team. The Super Eagles, as we have today, is like an orphan, owned by nobody, plays everywhere next time. And you see, it's a total quality management, I'm sorry to say.
Well, on that note, we'd like to thank you, Mr. Charles Ojugbana. We hope that the NFF will be able to get that magician that will take us to the 2026 World Cup. Because I think they are looking for a magician. Hopefully, they will get one.